Guys, good morning. How are we, team? What is going on, guys? Lovely to come into another Monday for you guys, and we are going to be getting started on a new episode of the podcast in a couple of moments, guys. So when you're coming in, let us know in the comments who's playing along. I'd love to know who's watching live. It's always a good feeling when we're kind of like, live. Hey, Jace. Yep, Marky Hunter starts us off. It's so good. Guys, what is going on? How was your weekend? Ours was pretty eventful. Ours was super eventful. And I'll talk about that a little bit in a moment. So, good evening, Marky. How are you, mate? I hope you're feeling a little bit better today, brother. Getting up and walking about, which is good. So, good stuff. We're going to start this one in 2 minutes, guys. I think it's going to give us a really good kind of, focus or direction for the week. Now, it is the last week of Back to Basics month, July. So we're super pumped to be coming in here and delivering for this last week. And then we'll be bringing probably a new theme in for August to keep us obviously focused inside of Better Body Academy. So if you're coming in live, guys, we're going to get started in around 60 to 90 seconds. Let us know that you're in and watching. All right, so who we got in here? Hey, Jen. Good evening, Jen. Sorry, I nearly missed my mark. I hope you're well, Jen, and having a beautiful, beautiful weekend. Amy, hello. Ames, I've got to shout you out, Amy. You are just relentless at the moment. I'm wondering if you can keep this up, Amy. I'm challenging you to keep this up until the point that you can actually embody this. Amelia, how are you, mate? Look at this, all the ladies coming in from the UK very late on a Sunday afternoon. So thanks for your company, guys. Lukey Durham, how are you, my sexy man? I hope you've had a beautiful week. We've got Chris Hill in here, fellow Raiders brother. Love you, Chriso. How are you, mate? We've got Chris Lewis here. How are you, dude? Good to see you here, guys. We're going to get started in just a moment. We've got JL in here, Mrs. Consistent at the moment as well. Sarah Deck, what's going on, girl? I hope you're lovely and having a good morning. Congrats on baby boy. Yeah, pretty amazing, right? Jeffy Cockley, what's going on, dude? Good evening, Kenny and Hazel. Hello, Benny. How are you, mate? Good to see you in here. Em's in here. Bob's in here. Jackie's in here as well. Hey, Jack. I hope you're well, mate. Who else we got? Mikey Bergman. Good morning, mate. Or rather afternoon on your Sunday, and Joshy Brown. Morning, mate. The whole family is watching. How good's that? I better put on a decent show then. All right, guys. I think we're ready to rock and roll. What do you reckon? Okay, we're good. We're set up. Let's get started for our Monday morning podcast on the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. This is, of course, the podcast that you come to when you're sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. And in today's episode, I'm going to be asking you a simple question. Would you trade places? Would you trade places? The meaning of this question is going to become a little bit more clear in a few moments. First, I do obviously just want to touch on what's been a fantastic weekend, or what is it now, 2 or 3 days? I've lost track of the date for us. So we welcomed our little boy into the world. He is super, super happy and healthy. And I can officially announce now that I've told the majority of my close family and friends that his name is Atlas Koa Stewart. Atlas is a Greek. It comes from Greek mythology, and it is essentially the man that held up the heavens and the world. In addition to this, obviously, Cordia and I are superbly into traveling. It's one of our most common bonds, I guess you would say. And to me, it goes perfectly with ocean. We've got Atlas and ocean. And then secondly, his middle name, which is Koa, is a Hawaiian name meaning warrior. And so very cool little name. So I've set him up and he just needs to follow the plan, right? so we're all on that. I've got to say as well, hopefully we can get out this afternoon. Cords was amazing. Like just so amazing. Like I'm going to say it again, and I've mentioned it in a podcast before. Any man that physically touches a woman in a hurting manner is and I'm not, you guys know I swear about, you're a gutless prick. You know, what what women go through, and I'm seeing my missus just over the shutters, kind of getting cut open and the baby being ripped out. It's just like, oh man, totally different experience this one. Even though this one went perfectly well and great, it's just like I just had a bubble in my throat. Then it just makes me so sick when I think about a man that touches a woman inappropriately. So anyway, we're going to move on from that. Hopefully, we can bring the fam home. I come home to bring Ocean home for a sleep, and then hopefully we can go back and pick them up. Cord's blood pressure just has to settle a little bit first, and then we should be okay. So just monitoring things, but certainly I would appreciate you guys sending Cords a message and DMing her and saying you're a champion and all that type of stuff. And that leads me into kind of today's podcast. I had a moment of clarity, where I was sitting there with my now family of 4 and Ocean's going bananas. And just thinking, how fucking lucky am I? Like, proper lucky. And I know that everyone has that moment in life where they kind of just sit back and just go, whoa. And we're currently in the mastermind right now with a number of students. And we discussed just briefly last week the idea of the walk of success. I just do want to explain this. This is, when we walk, we've obviously always got to have one foot on the ground, right? You can't walk with 2 feet up in the air. Well, the walk of success is an analogy, and those of you that are watching live can see what I'm doing. It's an analogy where you're always going to have one foot on the ground in gratitude and as you walk in life. One foot on the ground in gratitude, the other foot up in the air in ambition. So a great question to ask yourself is, when you're feeling successful in life, I'd say it's to do with 2 things. Number 1, a sense of achievement, happiness, love, pride. You're in gratitude, right? You feel good in the moment. But then equally at the same time, you have a sense of excitement for the future. And many of you would be feeling this right now. Desire, excitement, drive, growth for your next level. This is ambition. So you've got one foot on the ground in gratitude, and you've got the other foot in the air of an ambition, and you're walking the walk of success. So when I'm sitting here today, I'm with my little family. I'm feeling so lucky that everything went okay, and pregnancy's good, and our mission in life is being realized, and our team of coaches is fully on board, and we're here to give you guys our best. But equally, even though I'm at the hospital and spending time with my family, I want to get back to work. There's been some great progress in our academy this year with clients enrolling, get a better result, us simplifying things. But the way I see it is that we're only just scratching the surface. This is getting really big, and it's going to not stop at any point in time. And I'm really hungry for what is around the corner. And so let's segue into today's topic. If I asked you the question, would you like your life to level up? Would you like your life to level up? The answer is, of course, going to be, hell yes. Yes, I would. And if I ask specifically, would you like better health, wealth, relationships? You'd say, yes, hell yes. But despite this intention, I think a lot of people are unsure of the best path to get there. And this is because the world has become very noisy. Would you agree? It's very noisy with social media. It's very easy for unqualified people to have a stage, unproven people to have an opinion which is portrayed as fact. All you need to do is go and spend some time on TikTok and just see the amount of people on there that are talking absolute fucking bollocks. And if someone has the ability to string a couple of sentences together, it sounds like they're believable. And this makes it harder for us because it's confusing. I believe strongly in this idea of modeling. So what is modeling? Modeling is copying what works. I'll say it again very simply, copying what works. Why reinvent the wheel when the wheel already exists? Imagine someone kind of coming up to you and saying, hey dude, I just invented this thing where you fill it up with air and it's kind of circular and you stick it onto, 4 of them onto a chassis of a car and it propels the vehicle forward. And you'd say, you mean a wheel? And you'd go, yeah. And they're like, that shit's already been invented. Yet we act as if weight loss has never been achieved before, 1 billion times over. There is a process for physical transformation. And if we're not aware of that process yet, I'm just here to tell you that the process and best practice for the process exists. The problem is the marketplace is so noisy that it's hard to tell the right from wrong. Like, let me know in the comments, guys. There's 20 odd people watching live, and there'll be a bunch of people that will listen on replay. Like, who gets confused? Like, if you are like most of our clients that started in Better Body Academy, this is what you did. You tried to Google the answer, searching things like weight loss diet, quick fat loss, how do I lose weight, or how do I train properly? And then you've probably watched half of YouTube. And if you're like me, when I do that, I end up down an absolute rabbit hole where I'm actually more confused than when I started. And when you go down that rabbit hole, what ends up happening is you get what's called analysis paralysis. Analysis paralysis is when you seem to get contradicting opinions, and because you've got the contradicting opinions, you don't know which one to believe. And then what that ends up causing is you to do nothing. You just end up saying, this is too hard, I'm going to procrastinate further until the next time that you get a motivation boner. So what do you do when you feel stuck like this? How do you know where to turn? Who do you listen to? Who do you trust? What do you do? Jamie says, I deleted most of social media because of this. Yeah, exactly right, Jamie. How do you know what to follow? There's so much conviction out there on what to follow. Well, I'm going to tell you what I do. Okay, I'm going to tell you what I do. I ask myself this simple question. Okay, Emily says the internet is saturated with the wrong info. Erin says, yes, me, confusion at its finest. Yeah, you guys are just the ones that will admit it. I'm going to tell you what I do. I ask myself this simple question. For whatever it is that I am trying to change, I ask myself, the person that is communicating with me, whether it's directly or via the internet, I'm asking myself, would I trade places with this guy or girl for that thing? Would I trade places with this guy or girl for that thing? If given the chance, would I swap my life with this person for that area that they are talking about? If you listen to the podcast called The Iron Law of the Universe 2 back, you would understand what the law of cause and effect is. The law of cause and effect basically says that if you want to get really good at something, you should just copy what works. The idea of modeling is based on the law of cause and effect, because it basically says if you want this outcome, then stop worrying about the outcome and instead copy what actually works. The behaviors, the habits, copy those. So let's go a little bit deeper here. So when I was in a job, I remember the moment that I decided that I didn't want to do this forever and I didn't want to be like my bosses despite the amount of money that they were earning. I turned up to a regular social meet that we had. It was actually before a State of Origin game in Brisbane, to a story of how one of the new managers, about my age, had slept with one of the director's mistresses. Try work that one out. Okay, so how one of the managers, new managers my age, had slept with one of the directors, an older guy's mistress. I was fucking incensed. First, that one of the guys would be dumb enough to sleep with their boss's mistress. Second, that the boss openly had a mistress. At that point, I realized I don't want to be like any of these people. This is not what I want to be like. That's about the time that I started my side hustle in coaching. I realized I needed a fucking out. I do not want to trade places with these guys despite the millions of dollars that they were earning. When I got my first business coach, I spent about $10,000 on him in desperation to try to help me understand what coaching was about and the processes. And although he was an amazing guy, he had no idea about health and fitness, and therefore he helped me very little. I had no ability to model the behaviors because he was not doing what I needed to do. Until I got my first fitness business coach, a coach that, yeah, Luke says fat cats, exactly right, brother. until I got my first business coach, who was a former fitness coach who ran a very successful business that moved into business coaching. I learned from all my previous mistakes why I failed to that point in time. And so I binge listened to all his podcasts first. I loved his energy. I loved how his clients loved him. And in that moment, I asked myself a question: is this a guy who, for this thing, I would swap places with? The answer was a simple yes, every single day of the week. Even still to this day, I admire him. By the way, Aaron, you're watching, so it's exactly who you think. His energy is relentless, and I model his way. This is also the reason why I now pay $35,000 a year USD to be in his coach's program. Because I believe so strongly in modeling and the law of cause and effect that if I want to be like him, then I'm just going to model what he did, which is to copy the results. That's modeling 101. And so if I'm looking to make changes in my life, if I'm looking to get a financial advisor, which I did, the first thing that I did was asked them, her specifically, about her financial position. I wanted proof of the person that I was going to model. If I was to look for a relationship advisor because my relationship was getting pickled, I'd want to know about the person that is coaching me, about the relationship, about their relationship. Does anyone know psychologists that are like proper fruity? And you're thinking to yourself, fuck, like I would not want to be getting coaching off this person. And when it comes to health and fitness, I'm asking you to ask yourself, does this person practice what they preach? Is the person happy? Is the person disciplined? Are they inspired? Are they pushing themselves? Would I trade places with this person for that thing? This is also the reason that we don't have a bunch of wankers in our program, because like attracts like. BBA is full of high quality humans because it's the environment that we've cultivated. It attracts the same thing. Now let's bring this back to you. Your life might be a little bit confusing at the moment. It might be. You might be not yet be totally sold on there being one way of doing things, whatever it is for you. But I want to be apologetically clear right now. If you are in BBA, you should double down on the processes. You should double down. I'm going to state that if you're in our academy, if you started in our academy, there is some part of you that, given the chance, would like to trade places with me, a 40-year-old guy, in terms of health. I'm not talking about the scheme of everything else. I'm talking about the thing that I am here to coach you upon. And I'm not saying that to be a wanker. Perhaps you see a 40-year-old guy that's not a steroid head, that works hard, that is consistent and does his best in life. Or perhaps you saw a happy, confident, liberated guy who is comfortable in his own skin and traveling and doing what he wants to do. And part of you thinks, I want to have more of that in my life. Or maybe it was one of the other BBA coaches that you saw something in and you thought, trade places for this thing? Hell yes. Well, if that's the case, perfect. Then double the fuck down and ignore the surrounding noise. If you are getting distracted by a billion different things, it's taking your focus away from you and you modeling what actually works. One of the new lads in the BBA men's group, his name's Lee Powell. He's urging me to get some hoodies made up. Hashtag FTFP, standing for follow the fucking plan. The beauty of our system, the way it's set up, is I am selling you an education on how to do this forever. No other fitness coaches do this. I challenge you to find one. I challenge you to find another fitness coach that tells you the blueprint. I'll tell you why they don't. This is the reason why they don't. Because if they give you the answers, then you might leave. This is my problem with personal training. If I train you too hard, If I train you too well as an in-person personal trainer, why would you keep paying me? I've fixed your problem. This is the thing that we don't think about until it's been brought to our attention. And so you might ask, well, how does your model differ, Jace? Our model is based on if we can educate you and show you just the opening to what you can do. You're going to come into the base program and you're going to go, like Brock, who lost 7 kilos in 1 week last week because he followed the plan. Okay? His first week in. And so we can show you an opening, and then by showing you that opening, you walk through that, and then what's the next thing you're going to do? Well, if I got to the top of that mountain, now I want to join Elite. And if I can get to the top of that mountain, what if I did the mastermind? And our job is to keep ascending you to a point where we can't ascend you anymore. This process has been modeled over and over and over again. And if you're getting distracted by the noise, okay, you just need to turn all the other stuff off and double down on what you're learning here. What does that look like? Coming into this week, what does that look like? Focusing on the trifecta model to a T. Getting massively involved in the Facebook community. Listening to all of these podcasts. Go back and listen to every one of the 130 podcasts. That's what I did with my coach because I wanted to be just like him. So what did I do? I listened to everything he said. I listen and implement what happens. And success like speed, you've got to implement. And if you do these things, the change will be quicker and easier than you have ever known possible. And it will impact your entire life. Now, just as a final sort of takeaway to this podcast, I know a lot of you have a lot of people in your community, particularly friends and family, that are naysayers. They say that you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. And that's a bit of a shit, right? But even if it is friends and family and they're giving you opinion, the first thing you must ask, including if that comes from your mum or dad, you would just want to ask, would I trade places with the person that's giving me advice? Now, I'll give you a very poignant example. My father is the person that I respect more than anyone on the planet for what he's done. Would I trade places with him and be a concreter? Fuck no. I could not think of anything personally worse. I admire my brother for doing exactly that. And this is not criticism. I'm saying I would not trade places. So therefore, why would I listen to the opinion of my brother when it comes to a career, or my father when it comes to a career? I'm only using this example to illustrate that you only take advice from people that you would swap places with for that specific single area. If the answer is no, you be friendly and you move on. Your mentality is the most important thing to preserve. And listening to all of the noise is only going to feed your self-doubt. When you are resilient in what information you feed yourself, you pay less attention to the commercial news stations, and you control both what you put in here and what you put in here and here. Food is available in many forms, and that includes what comes through your ears and eyes. And you start to control this, all of a sudden, you're controlling the opinions that you're listening to. And this is changing your entire life. And I guarantee, guys, as we wind out this podcast, if you double down and you can really try to get in my head. You know what I did? When I went into my coach, okay? When I got my coach, what I thought to myself is, hang on, if I can just learn to think like he does regarding a fitness business, I can get the same result. It's actually very simple to think like that. And so Erin says it's very liberating when you start to do this, 100%. So if you want to take that advice, if you want to know something, guys, I want you to ask. Don't sit and think, how would you approach this, Jace? Or how would you approach this, Nikki or Carly or Mikey or Trav or Erin? I want you to ask. Because if you can get what's in their head into yours, the result won't be immediate. But due to the law of cause and effect, if you model what is working, you will get the same result. On a final note, I'm seeing this happening in the 2 masterminds right now. For anyone that's in the mastermind, would you agree? I'm seeing guys like Lukey Durham and Maddie Harvey emulating what works. In the women's group, Kayla in the US, she went out and she confronted her fears and ran like a bastard at something that she was so procrastinating on for so long. She trusted the process and she faced her fears and she modeled what works, and that's to move towards those fears. Guys, if you're in our academy, I just want to let you know, I appreciate the shit out of you. I appreciate that you've been patient with us during this time of having baby, and obviously over the next few days it's going to be a bit wobbly as well, but you don't need to be perfect. You need to wake up every morning with a fresh perspective, not reactive, and just do your best for that day, copying the trifecta system that you know what works. And then let's fast forward 6 months and ask yourself where you'll be. You will wake up like Erin Waters and look in the mirror and be not only physically unrecognizable, but you will feel like a fraud, actually, is how you'll feel. Correct, Erin? You'll feel like a fraud because you don't know how it's possible for you to change so quickly over a short period of time. There's a level of like fragmentation there where you're like, how have I done this? This must not be me. And then it's just that your self-image needs a little bit of time to catch up. Guys, I'm going to love you and leave you on that note. Going back to hospital and checking on my girl. Hopefully you guys have a beautiful, beautiful start to the week. Remember, this is the final week of Back to Basics July. Let's get stuck in. Let's go. Love you guys. Chat soon.